Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. I guess for those of you who are more into my channel for the statues, I do apologize. I've been on a pretty big Master Replicas lightsaber kick lately, and I know that the majority of my reviews have been lightsabers. Obviously been getting a lot of these really cool Master Replicas heirlooms in lately. But trust me, eventually it's gonna stop because believe it or not, there are only a finite number of these that were made. Company went out of business. They only made so many of them. So eventually it'll stop. And I know I've been on a pretty big tear lately. But these are just basically so cool. So bear with me a little bit longer. I do have a pretty big statue review coming up. Really big one, and you might catch a hint in the background of this review to see what it's going to be. But that one requires some time. Whenever I do a review of one of those statues, it always is like really long because there's just so many things to talk about, for those pieces. But that's coming. But for this today, I was sort of debating whether I was going to just combine the review with another one, but I'll play it by ear. I don't know whether I want to just keep it a little bit shorter, or combine it and make it a little bit longer. But for those of you who've been, following my recent YouTube reviews, you might probably thinking like, wait a minute, like hasn't he already done this? This is just basically the Master Replicas, Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope, Luke Skywalker lightsaber, right? And you would of course be correct, but for those of you who are paying a little bit more close attention, this is not the signature version. This is actually the elite edition of the New Hope Luke Skywalker hilt, and it has its own type of importance and its own beautiful characteristics. So if you look at the plaque, again, this is a double plaque. One of them shows you the actual edition number, Star Wars 2005 Collector Society exclusive Luke Skywalker lightsaber, Episode 4 New Hope, and it's the Elite Edition. You can see that, and then of course there's the Worldwide Edition, again Elite Edition specific. So the New Hope lightsaber, of Luke Skywalker is just like very iconic. Because it is the very first time that all of us were first introduced to just the concept of a lightsaber, and unfortunately for me, this got a little bit ruined because I immigrated from China in 1979, 1980. I was only I was only 5 years old, maybe. I think I was 6 when I saw Empire Strikes Back. And so again, my introduction to the Star Wars universe is a little bit less than desirable because of, I was exposed essentially to the middle film of the trilogy. It was the darkest and most mature movie. It was hard to understand. I was very young. English was not my primary language. So I got introduced to Star Wars like literally about the worst way you possibly could, right? Like if you want to ruin Star Wars, show a 5.5, 6-year-old Empire Strikes Back when that kid is still learning how to speak English. But for many more of you, I know, the first introduction to Star Wars, that magic, so many of course magical moments. To begin with, that crawl and then the panning down of that massive Star Destroyer. But, one of the most magical moments of A New Hope was when, Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi gave this lightsaber hilt to Luke, at his place, and then he ignites it, and this like amazing, the whole thing, right? The sound, the way it hummed in the air, the color, no one ever seen anything quite like it. It just seemed, again, like magical. It was amazing. It's a very sort of unique, feeling you get. And of course, I wasn't able to truly get that because, I mean, I saw Luke, ignited in Empire Strikes Back when he killed the Wampa, and so that was a little bit different, right? But for the audiences, across the world, that first introduction, was truly something spectacular. And so that's what this hilt means to a lot of people. I mean, this is the very, very first lightsaber we ever saw, ever. New Hope, Luke's sword passed down to him by Ben from his father. And so because of that importance, there's like this sort of mystical quality about this particular design. And through both my signature edition, New Hope, as well as my Empire Strikes Back signature edition, you've learned quite a lot about, the base model, the Graflex, all of the different, components and additions and all that. But for this particular hilt, because of its importance, because of the iconic and legendary status, this was the only lightsaber that Master Replicas made not one, not two, but three versions of. Okay, so depending on the business model, Master Replicas would sometimes make two versions. They would make like a limited edition and then like an elite edition, or they would make a limited edition and a signature edition. Some hilts, they only made limited editions because they weren't able to get the actors to actually sign, so there's no signature edition. And it could very well be that the elite edition simply was not financially practical. They only made three of those. They made the Obi-Wan, which I reviewed, the Luke new elite edition, which I'm reviewing now, and of course the Return of the Jedi elite edition. It just simply may not have been financially viable because they only made those three. They never made it again. But the Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope Luke Skywalker lightsaber is the only one where they made not only the limited edition, but they also made a signature edition and an elite edition as well. So what I have in front of me, of course, is the elite edition. You can tell that this was essentially created July 10th, 2005. So this is a 2005 saber. So interestingly, if you're following the timeline, the signature edition for Mark Hamill's version of this was released in November of 2006. So the elite edition actually came out earlier than the signature edition. As with all elite editions, only Master Replicas Collector Society members were allowed to buy them, or at the very least, they would have first opportunity. It's a worldwide limited edition of 1,000, along with 30 artist proofs. So it's slightly less exclusive than the signature version. Remember, they only made 750 of those signature editions, whereas here the limitation is 1,000. Like with all of these sabers that was created around the 2005, 2006 time period, which is the generation where they did a lot of the Revenge of the Sith hilts. They again neglected to put the limitation, the total worldwide edition, and so they created the second plaque. Okay, so that's kind of the setup or the preamble for this. So you can kind of see this thing in its case. I'm going to mention again that supposedly they had a much higher quality mirror base, as well as the acrylic. It just seems to be a little bit thicker, a little bit thicker, a little bit more clear. Definitely, seems to be a little bit better quality. And the mirror base, instead of being sort of the matte design, is a little bit glossier. Unfortunately, you don't get to see it much because most of the gloss is on the undersurface of the base. So you only get to see sort of the rim, right? That's basically it. So, that extra layer of quality is a little bit harder to appreciate, but definitely it's glossier around the sides versus, again, the flat matte finish of the signature limited edition versions. We'll get into the quality a little bit closer, a little bit later on. So for now, I'm just sort of rotating this on the turntable so you can get an idea of, what this thing looks like in its case. and all of that. You can see the reflection. As usual, I polished this. There was actually a little tiny scratch on the acrylic, but that came right out with the Novus 2, Novus 2 scratch remover. It really is pretty remarkable. I mean, unless your scratch is so deep, you can actually feel it with your fingernail, like a really deep scratch. Almost all superficial scratches that you can't feel polish almost like instantly with the Novus 2. So I can't say enough about that. And then I do like a once over with the brilliant eyes. And these acrylic display covers just look fantastic when you do that. I also, polish it with a microfiber, like a screen microfiber cloth on the mirror base to give it that shine as well. Now, in terms of the price that this commands, it does vary quite a bit. I can tell you that of the 3 Elite editions, this one is the least rare, the least exclusive, and thereby the cheapest, or the least expensive, the least desirable. You'll almost always find these guys up on eBay for ridiculously inflated prices, but you'll find them there. It's a bit more of a to-do. It's a lot harder to find like an Obi-Wan Phantom Menace Elite Edition or a Return of the Jedi Luke Elite Edition. Those do come up, but quite rare. In terms of the order of rarity, the Return of the Jedi is the most rare, 750, but this guy is actually second most at 1,000, and then the Obi-Wan is at 1,250, has the highest limitation number. But you don't really see an Obi-Wan or a Return of the Jedi Luke very often. They come up a couple times a year, if that, whereas there's anywhere from 5 to 9 of these guys in various, condition, always on eBay. Now, why is that? My feeling is that there's just a lot different. There's a lot of versions of this to choose from. I mean, if you've got 750 signature editions to choose, to go from, or you have, for instance, the limited edition to go from. There's so many different versions. I think that does affect, again, the desirability of the piece. And so that also affects value. Now, the thing is that this, is always on eBay for this, like, 3, 4, 5,000. Those are not really realistic, prices. You can actually get this for quite a bit cheaper. In fact, the previous one that was sold on auction sold for a very low price. I mean, last year there was one that only sold for about $1,100 on eBay shipped, which is crazy because shipping is like about maybe $100, and then you have to PayPal fees. And that guy took home less than $1,000 for this, and that's actually pretty insane when you think about it. And he had the original packaging and the double plaques, but I think that was like maybe a one-off, was like a very, very kind of rare circumstance. I would say that for this, probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 1,600, including shipping. Is not unreasonable, would be a decent price, and especially if it comes with a double plaque. The addition of the second plaque really, of course, makes the piece, and without it, I think that probably should drop the price by at least a few $100s, because you do want that second plaque that comes with it. As you can see, it really accentuates it, and it's just a really important thing to have. I don't do unboxing videos because I think those are bad luck, but this was bought from a gentleman in the UK who has a stunning Master Replicas collection. I think he bought almost like every single thing that Master Replicas put out, with some exceptions. I'm pretty sure he had almost every lightsaber, but this is from a gentleman in the UK. He took really good care of it in general. Certainly the lightsaber hilt, the plaques, the case was all in very good condition, very well packaged. And so I don't do the unboxing, but it comes with, of course, everything like this. And it does, this Elite Edition does come in its own black box. It doesn't have a hinge, it's just lifting it up. And it's like really nice, black, gray foam. And the hilt is, sitting there. So very classy. This was done at a time when, for all the other regular hilts, even the signature edition versions and the Master Replicas had moved away from that type of custom, box for the hilts, and they were going to just styrofoam. Okay, so again, it kind of just shows you how special these Elite editions are, that they still kept with the custom foam inlaid box, nice and black with a little slip over it, and then Elite edition on top of that. So that's kind of, I think, the ballpark. Of course, things can change drastically, but I would say $1,500 is a very fair price if it has everything, either shipped or not shipped. And then if you're getting something below that, anywhere below $1,500, I think is a very, very good deal. I would not buy this for like say 2,000 range. I think that's way too high. So I would be hold pretty firm for $1,500 if I were you. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's move this back a little bit so I can talk about the certificate of authenticity. So as you can see, this is from that generation where it still opens out and unfolds like all of the later Master Replicas envelopes. Here we have the paperwork. As usual, you have your limited edition warranty. For some reason, this one didn't come with the registration and the joining the Master Collector Society, which is fine. This is actually pretty unique. It's packaged with the Elite Edition, and I've seen a couple eBay auctions that show this, so we do know that this does come with this particular saber. And it just kind of, I just want to show you sort of, back in 2005, 2006, what what they're selling. So here's the Force FX versions. There's the half scale replicas, and then their limited edition version. They had Anakin, Obi-Wan, and the Darth Vader. These are all from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. All of these requiring second worldwide edition plaques. And then this is pretty cool. At the time, they had a Darth Vader sweepstakes. And the grand prize, you would get a #1 of a Darth Vader limited edition lightsaber, as well as a Darth Vader helmet. I mean, that's pretty crazy that they would offer up 2 #1s for this grand prize. Even second prize is not bad. So that's kind of neat. It's a little throwback of their, of what was going on at that time. So you can see 2005, 2006, it was all about Revenge of the Sith. Here's a couple more products back there. Again, Episode 3, Darth Vader helmet. You had the Snow Speeder, and you had a couple of the clone trooper helmets. So I always gotta kind of get a kick out of looking at these, because it just kind of reminds me of what was going on at that time. So here is the certificate of authenticity, Elite Edition. And then if we open it up, so you can tell, as with all of these in 2005, 2006, it's a very simple 2 pages versus the triptych. It says Elite Edition, Luke Skywalker. And you can read that for yourself. And over here, it tells you a little bit about this. So here you go. I'll go a little bit slow so you can read it yourself. All right, so let's put this away, and we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at the Elite Edition Luke Skywalker hilt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the acrylic case, of course, and once that's done, we're going to be able to put on the black background. here we have it. So without the glare of the the acrylic, I'm going to twirl this around a little bit more, so get a chance to take a look at it. So if you read the certificate of authenticity, it mentions the fact that this is made out of stainless steel, and that there are chromed, chrome plated aspects of it. Don't quite know what parts are chrome or not. I mean, they all look like they're one material, maybe the bunny ears or something like that, I don't know. But it definitely looks pretty amazing. So here you go. Just kind of turning it around so you kind of get a panoramic view like I normally do with these lightsaber reviews. You can see what it looks like all the way around. All right. Let's get a little bit close up for the plaque. So this is what it looks like. Number 245 is what I got. Now I am going to actually do a separate video comparing the Elite Edition and the Signature Edition. I was kind of flirting with the idea of just doing it all together, but it's already like 20 plus minutes. And so if I did that, it would be too long. So I'm going to break it up into another video and compare the two, which I think would be sort of interesting. Just like I compared the Empire Strikes Back and the New Hope Signature Editions. I'm going to compare Elite and Signature Edition. I'm going to put this aside. And then this was actually still brand new sealed. I actually cut it open and I fixed this aluminum, brushed plaque to it. First time in like 15 years that was done. So here you go. I think the original owner never actually bothered to display it. He didn't feel like he needed to. You had to send for this later. They actually sent it to you automatically, but some people didn't get them. And so some people got actually more than one of these, but here you go. Elite Edition, Worldwide Edition. It tells you there's 30 artist proofs. It tells you the date that it was released, and the 2005 Collector Society exclusive. So very nice. I mean, again, we talked about this in the Signature Edition review, but a little bit silly that this is even necessary. But I have to admit that, since they screwed up and had to give it to you, it would have been a little bit lame to have this whole Star Wars logo and all of this and just tell you like, oh, Worldwide Edition, such and such. So it's kind of nice that, they give you a logo, they give you the exclusive society, the date, and not only the edition of the normal versions of this, but also the artist proofs. It's a nice little bonus. All right, so here we go. Turning it around again. Let's take a look. So I'll do a better review, like when we sort of, I'm gonna put this aside so I don't accidentally hit anything. But I'll do a better review when I do the comparison. But in terms of the weight, I mean, this is really, really heavy. I think I mentioned how like the Luke New Hope Signature Edition just felt way heavier than the Empire Strikes Back Signature Edition. I actually feel like this is even heavier. And I won't know until I hold them both in my hand, but I want to say that this is definitely heavier than the Signature Edition New Hope, actually even. So just remarkably heavy. So a few things just to kind of go over. Believe it or not, there are, of course, differences, which we will accentuate when we do the comparison review later on. But, highlights, this is, of course, still modeled after the Graflex. This is not from an original Graflex. This is, of course, a replica machine from scratch. So very, very high quality. All of the metal that you see here are all basically stainless steel, which is a way heavier and hardier and harder metal than aluminum. These guys are all injection molded. There's absolutely no stickiness to the rubber at all. Really, really good quality. Very, 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 very nice. I don't know whether they use better quality later on down the road, but for sure, it feels very, very good. You can tell that none of this is coming off. There's no glue, no rising off or anything like that, which again, is a little bit of the case with my signature edition. You can see the grooves. The Graflex is recreated almost perfectly. They removed some of the Graflex imprinting, obviously, to continue to give you the illusion of, the fact that this is a real lightsaber. You want to see a Graflex imprinted on your prop replicas, or at least I don't. What's there to say, really? You know about the Texas Instruments bubble strip, the exactual bubble strip. You know about the little close the lever here. All of this is just recreated to very exacting standards. Again, you can see the 7 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these T-tracks. Here's the D-ring. You can move up and down, and here's the single rivet. And of course, you can see 2005 Master Replicas, and instead of the Signature Edition, it clearly shows the Elite Edition. So all of these lightsabers are distinguished from Limited Edition, Elite Edition, and Signature Edition. They're all individually stamped, so you can't confuse, nor can you switch the lightsabers. By the way, if it wasn't for the imprinting of the signature, you would never be able to tell, I think, the difference between obviously Signature versus Limited Edition. But for the Elite Edition, absolutely you can tell, even if you don't have the imprinting. You can feel just the weight of this thing is insane, actually. Here's the power switch from the Graflex. Here's the knurling, the button that works. Here's the beer tab, the bunny ears. And then, of course, if I show you this from the front, you can again see this little area here that you can press down if you wish. You can move it and press down. And then this thing can actually move back and forth from here to here to here. This is where you put the bulb. So all of that is pretty much identical. Again, it's attached to these little knobs or hooks or what have you here. And when they're talking about the chrome plating, I got to think that's this stuff, I guess. Maybe they chrome plated the steel. I don't really know. On the undersurface, again, a big difference from the Empire Strikes Back. Instead of another button, this is just a glass eye. It's like the preview, I guess, lens of the Graflex. But this is the original, like I said, the glass eye. I'll have to double check once we do the comparison. But this eye definitely feels a lot more superficial than the Signature Edition. I don't know whether it's just the one I got or whether this was just the way all of the Limited Edition and Signature Editions were, but their glass eye was recessed, I feel like, a little bit deeper than this. This is way more superficial, so you can actually feel it. But again, that could just be minor changes in manufacturing process at the factories. But yeah, this glass eye is a little bit easier to feel. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm going to try to kind of show you this from the side. Like you can actually see that the from the side view, you can actually see that the glass eye is actually a little bit above the level even of the edge of the knurl of this little like circle, right? So here's the glass eye, and look, like you can't quite see it here, but if I just turn a little bit, you can actually see the glass eye. Hopefully you can see the mound of this eye. Look all around, and for sure I think the New Hope version, the Signature Edition, this was way deeper recessed than this. But whatever. Those are just very tiny, minute differences. So just by visually inspecting it, I don't think you can really tell. Let's see if you can tell once I have both lightsabers side by side. But this is just way higher quality than than the Limited Edition, even the Signature Edition. In terms of desirability, it just shows you what those signatures mean. A Signature Edition New Hope is literally triple the price of this, in my opinion. If not, maybe 2.5, but it could be triple the price of this. And so despite the better quality, it's the Mark Hamill signature, and the rarity just goes for so much more. Part of me does question why that was done. Like, why didn't you just make the Signature Edition the Elite Edition, right? Like, instead of making another 1,000. I guess the obvious answer, as the answer is to everything, is just money. Like, maybe they did it because they felt that they could sell that many. And I guess eventually they did. But I do feel like, to some extent, that would just hurt the value a little bit. It's like you're making so many. Like why didn't you just make, say, 750 signature editions and made them elite level, like made the stainless steel, and that separates sort of the signature edition even more from the limited edition, sort of like what you did with the Mace Windu, where you had the higher quality gold plating, the 18 karat versus the 14 karat gold plating. But again, this is all many years ago, almost 2 decades ago. Who knows what the reason is for these business decisions? Maybe they didn't want to make the customer base angry that the signature edition was so much different. Maybe they wanted to sell only the signature, or it could just be pricing. I mean, the signature edition was already like $5.99, an extra couple $100 more. And I guess if you made the signature edition better materials, you'd be looking at a $700, $800 saber, and they probably didn't think that they were going to be able to sell that. So that's probably the reason why they didn't do that. But to do this instead of what they did, kind of splitting it up into both the elite and the signature and the limited, I think was probably just a step too far. But now it's 2023. All of this is water under the bridge, and now there are enthusiast collectors like myself just buying these, and I'm really happy to get them. Even though it's the same lightsaber, how many of these do you need? But there's history behind it, the 2 different plaques, the weight of this thing. It feels amazing, so I'm pretty happy about getting this thing, and for what I consider to be a fair and reasonable deal. And from a fellow enthusiast, he was happy I went to a good home, and I was happy to be able to give him the business. One final thing that's really cool, and that you're going to see in my comparison review, is the fact that, if you'll recall, if there is an orientation, because the bunny ear and the red button is facing up, so this would be considered, like the back or upside, and then the downside is where you have the glass eye, right? So if this is 12 o'clock right over here, if you guys remember, the control box or the clamp box on the signature edition, and I assume the limited edition as well, was actually on the other side, was on the 9 o'clock position. You can see for the elite edition, the exactual bubble strip is actually on the 3 o'clock position, which is the same position as the Empire Strikes Back control box. I found that pretty cool. Like maybe it was Master Replica's homage to the fact that there were different versions of this prop in use for A New Hope. And one would have one on the 3 o'clock, and the other one would have one on the 9 o'clock. So when they made the elite edition, they decided to show the elite edition with the one on the 3 o'clock. And so of course, when you display it, the way the grooves are cut on the display case, it's now placed on the mirror base this way, with the emitter to the right, whereas with the signature edition, the emitter was placed actually, if you'll remember, to the opposite side. The emitter was facing left. So again, I think that's a pretty interesting little detail. So there you have it. Couldn't be happier with this. And I do look forward to showing you the comparison of these two. I think that's the first one. Actually, is there even like a Luke Skywalker Elite Edition on YouTube? I don't know. I have to check. I think this might be the first one of an Elite on YouTube, but for sure the next one where I actually have an Elite and a signature all together comparing is again a YouTube first. And I don't take much pride in that. I mean, there's way too few Master Replicas YouTube reviews, in my opinion. Just like I put up a few Walt Disney Classics Collection reviews once in a while, and there's just way too few of those. I mean, these are just beautiful works of art from a company that has been gone for many years, and I just don't have any faith that we're going to have anything even close to this quality again. So I like to make videos and showcase it, and give people who never had a chance to hold one or buy one, and just kind of give them a chance to really see how wonderful this is. All the close-up detail, the machining that goes onto it. It's all brushed metal, and then also chromed. It's just overall a stunning lightsaber. So again, while I'm talking, just kind of giving you all of the close-ups so that you have a chance again to see all of this. And for a near 20-year collectible, you know, the gentleman in the UK did a fantastic job taking care of it. Great condition. Take a look at the bottom again. Look at that glass eye. Okay, so I'm going to bring this display case back. So as you can see, there's two ridges here, and the ridges are there to hold this. And so that's the way it's supposed to rest, I believe. It's way heavier at the base than up top, which is predictable. But it's kind of like crazy, again, how heavy this thing is. Let's put the plaques into position, right over here. And then the acrylic, we're gonna take this off. Let's make sure everything is properly lined up. Acrylic case goes on. Then certificate of authenticity. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Luke Skywalker Lightsaber Elite Edition, number 245 out of 1,000. And the next video will be comparing this with the Signature Edition that I reviewed earlier, and just kind of looking at the two. So let's see if we can feel the difference in the weight, if you can see the difference. Again, this is supposed to be much, much better quality, but let's see. Until then, do take care.